All right, let's talk suits. Have you ever noticed how a well-dressed man in a suit just seems to, well, command attention?
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like the suit itself just carries an aura of, I don't know, power and sophistication.
Yeah, it's almost like a uniform, but in a really um, elegant way. So today, we're going on a deep dive.
Into the history of the suit, unpacking why it holds that power.
Exactly. Now, I know you have a ton of research in front of you. You've really dug deep into this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, where do we even start? The suit has such a rich
Well,
history.
maybe we could start with the basics. I mean, where did this whole suit thing even come from?
Good point. Well, we have to go back a few centuries. Think 17th century England.
Okay, 17th century England. Got it. Lots of upheaval and change going on back then, right?
Definitely. So picture this. London in 1666, recovering from the Great Fire. Charles II is on the throne, and he's looking to, make a statement.
A statement about fashion, I'm guessing, what was going on with clothing back then.
It was a time of transition. So Charles II decides to introduce a new style of dress, something we now know as the three-piece suit.
Wait, the three-piece suit, like that's been around that long?
Yep. A long vest, breeches, and a coat. Pretty revolutionary for the time.
Wow, so he was basically the original trendsetter.
Yeah.
But why this particular style? Was it just a fashion choice?
Well, it was more than just looking good. Charles II was actually using fashion as almost as a political tool.
Okay, a political tool? How so?
Think about it. He wanted to boost the English wool trade, right? And he also wanted to differentiate England from, the French court.
Oh, right. They were all about extravagance and showing off their wealth.
Exactly. So this three-piece suit, it was a way to project an image of, I don't know, thrift and seriousness.
A very strategic fashion choice. I never thought about it that way.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And there's another layer to this, too. This is the era of, exploration, globalization.
Right, the world was opening up in a whole new way. So how does that tie into the suit?
Well, that vest that we see in the three-piece suit, the ancestor in the waistcoat, it was probably influenced by Persian fashions.
Oh, really? So even back then, it wasn't just a purely English style.
Not at all. These global trends were already starting to shape fashion. And this idea of the suit reflecting those broader cultural forces, it continues throughout its history.
So it sounds like we're talking about more than just clothes here. We're talking about social change, identity, politics.
Absolutely. As the suit evolves, it becomes intertwined with those changing ideas about masculinity.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. What were those evolving ideas, and how did they show up in the way suits were designed and worn?
Well, if you look at the 18th and 19th centuries, you see a shift away from, those really flamboyant styles that the aristocracy favored.
Right, like the powdered wigs and all that. So
Yeah.
what replaced it?
Plain functional suits, they become associated with Protestant values like hard work and practicality.
So it's like the suit became a symbol of, like, respectability, a way to visually distance yourself from those excesses of the past.
Exactly. And this idea of the suit as a symbol of conformity, social order, it becomes even stronger when you contrast it with the clothing of those who, were seen as rebels or outcasts.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
hmm
Are you thinking of, say, pirates? With their, like, extravagant vests and jackets?
Precisely. Their whole look was about defying those social norms, whereas the suit represented, stability, sticking to the rules.
Interesting. So even back then, fashion was about so much more than just clothes.
Absolutely. It was a way to signal your values, your place in society.
So we've got the suit as a symbol of conformity, but even within that, I imagine there was still room for, individual expression.
Oh, definitely. And that's where the dandy comes in.
Ah, the dandy. Tell me more about them.
So in the 19th century, the dandy kind of changes the game. Think Beau Brummel, the ultimate dandy. He rejected all that ostentatious display and focused on simplicity and perfect tailoring.
So it was still about conforming to the basic structure of the suit, but finding ways to express your individuality through the details.
Exactly. Brummel's signature look, it was a dark coat, a white shirt, and crucially well-fitted trousers. It became incredibly influential.
And that set a trend that, well, it still resonates today.
It's about elegance, refinement, not just, flaunting wealth.
It's funny, it almost makes you wonder if our modern obsession with effortless style is just a, like, reinterpretation of the dandy's meticulous attention to detail.
That's an interesting thought. But this emphasis on subtle elegance, perfect tailoring, it leads us to a crucial moment in the suit's history. The rise of Savile Row.
Ah, Savile Row. Just the name evokes images of, like master craftsman bespoke tailoring.
Exactly. In the 19th century, it becomes this magnet for the elite, anyone who sought the ultimate in, craftsmanship and
And
style.
that's where we start to see these legendary tailoring houses emerge, right? Like Henry Poole and Co.
Exactly. They dressed royalty, international figures, really solidified Savile Row's global reputation.
A reputation built on generations of skill and artistry.
Absolutely. So by the end of the 19th century, the suit, it had come a long way from its origins as almost a political statement by King Charles II.
It had become a symbol of respectability, social order, and, of course, sartorial excellence.
Yeah, but that's just the beginning of the story. And as we move into the 20th century, the suit kind of takes on this, a life of its own. It becomes a global phenomenon.
So it's not just an English thing anymore.
Not at all. I mean, it transcends its origins. A lot of factors come into play, but one of the big ones is the rise of American business culture.
Oh, interesting. So the suit kind of gets adopted by, like, the American corporate world.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes the uniform of success, the ambitious executive, the man who's making things happen.
And America's influence is growing on the world stage at the same time.
Precisely. So the suit kind of rides that wave.
Right.
It becomes the symbol of power, aspiration. And not just in the West, around the world.
But didn't other cultures try to, like, resist that dominance? I'm thinking of, say, the Nehru suit in India or the Mao suit in China.
You're right. There were definitely attempts to create these alternative forms of, formal wear. But it's interesting, even those attempts are kind of defined by their relationship to the Western suit.
It's like the suit became the, I don't know, the default setting, the standard that everything else was measured against.
Exactly. But as the suit spreads across the globe, it also, it undergoes some transformations. We mentioned mass production earlier. That's where we see the rise of the lounge suit.
And that's basically the suit we recognize today, right?
Right.
But wasn't the lounge suit originally considered more casual?
Yeah, that's right. Initially, it was something you might wear in the country, on holiday, that kind of thing.
It's hard to imagine that now, given how we associate suits with, formality and power.
I know, right? But over time, it gradually becomes more acceptable in, professional settings.
And this shift, I'm guessing it's also tied to the decline of the waistcoat.
Exactly. With wristwatches replacing pocket watches, men no longer needed that extra pocket space.
And I imagine central heating becoming more common also played a role.
Mm.
The waistcoat's extra layer of warmth became less essential.
Right. It's fascinating how these technological advancements can influence fashion in these, in unexpected ways.
So mass production makes suits more accessible. But Savile Row, it manages to hold on to its position as, the pinnacle of bespoke tailoring. How did they survive, even thrive, in the face of all that change?
Well, Savile Row has always been about, adapting and innovating, but within that tradition. Remember we talked about Anderson and Shepard and their, revolutionary English drape.
Right, creating that softer, more comfortable silhouette.
Exactly. And they weren't afraid to court a more diverse clientele. Even Prince Charles is a fan.
It shows that even within those strict traditions of Savile Row, there was room for experimentation, for evolution.
Absolutely. And speaking of shaking things up, we can't forget Nutters of Savile Row.
Ah, yes, Nutters. They definitely brought a different energy to Savile Row, didn't they?
Oh, they did. Tommy Nutter, the founder, he had this incredible knack for, blending traditional craftsmanship with a, modern, even flamboyant aesthetic.
And he dressed everyone, from rock stars to members of the aristocracy.
Exactly. He kind of understood that Savile Row didn't have to be, stuffy and old-fashioned. It could be cool, edgy, and still maintain those impeccable standards.
And his legacy lives on. Edward Sexton, Nutter's business partner, continues that tradition.
It's a reminder that when we talk about Savile Row, it's not just about, clinging to the past. It's about understanding that true style is timeless, but it can also be, reinterpreted, reinvented for each new generation.
But Savile Row is an investment. Not everyone can afford a bespoke suit. So what are some takeaways from their approach to style that we can all apply, regardless of our budget?
That's a great question. One of the most important lessons from Savile Row is the emphasis on fit and quality.
They understand that a well-fitting garment made from quality materials will always look good, no matter the trends.
Exactly. It's about investing in pieces that will, stand the test of time.
And understanding that true style isn't about chasing fads. It's about finding what works for you and wearing it with confidence.
Absolutely. And remember, Savile Row tailors, they spend hours, sometimes days, perfecting the fit of a garment. So don't be afraid to get things tailored, even off the rack
A
pieces.
small adjustment can make a huge difference.
It's like they're not just dressing you, they're helping you create this, a personal style that reflects you.
So while Savile Row might not be for everyone, its philosophy of style, it's something we can all learn from.
Definitely. And maybe one day we'll all have the chance to experience the magic of a Savile Row suit for ourselves.
But for now, we can still appreciate their commitment to excellence and find ways to, incorporate their principles into our own style journeys.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one last thing I think we should touch on. We've talked about the suit's origins, its evolution, its global reach, but what about its future?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is it destined to become a relic of the past? Or does it still have a place in our, increasingly casual world?
Well, it's a fascinating question, and to be honest, I don't think there's a simple answer. On the one hand, you have this rise of casual wear, the tech bro aesthetic.
Right, hoodies and jeans, all about comfort and practicality. It's like a rejection of, I don't know, the perceived stuffiness of formal wear.
Yeah. And we see this casualization happening in so many areas of life. But on the other hand, there's this growing awareness of the environmental and ethical costs of fast fashion.
Right, people are starting to think more about where their clothes come from, how they're made.
And that's where the suit's emphasis on, quality and craftsmanship, it could actually make a comeback.
So you're saying the suit could become a symbol of, like, conscious consumerism, a rejection of that fast fashion cycle.
Yeah. It's definitely possible. A well-made suit, it can last for decades, becomes this, cherished heirloom, not a disposable item. And Savile Row, with its focus on bespoke tailoring, sustainable practices, they're really well positioned to capitalize on this trend.
But beyond the sustainability aspect, do you think there's still a desire for that, that kind of timeless elegance that the suit represents?
Absolutely. We're already seeing a resurgence of interest in vintage clothing, classic styles, and the suit, with its versatility and, inherent elegance, it could easily become part of that movement.
It's funny how fashion is cyclical, isn't it? What was once considered old-fashioned can suddenly become trendy again.
Exactly. And the suit has that same potential for reinvention. We're already seeing designers experiment with, new fabrics, colors, silhouettes.
So the future of the suit might not be about, like, strict adherence to tradition, but rather about reinterpreting those classic elements for a modern audience.
Precisely. It's about finding that balance between, respecting the heritage of the suit while also embracing innovation and creativity.
I have to admit, after learning so much about the suit's history, I'm starting to see it in a whole new light. It's not just a piece of clothing. It's a reflection of our culture, our values.
It's a reminder that fashion is never just about clothes. It's this powerful form of communication.
And as we move forward, I think the suit will continue to evolve, adapting to, new social norms, technological advancements. Who knows what the suit of the future will look like?
The possibilities are endless. But one thing's for sure. The suit, in some form or another, will likely continue to be a part of our, sartorial landscape.
It's a testament to its enduring appeal, its versatility.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the history of the suit. It's been a fascinating journey.
We've covered a lot of ground, but hopefully it's left you with a new appreciation for this, this iconic garment.
And as always, we encourage you to continue exploring this topic on your own.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, how does the suit fit into all this?
This tension between casual and sustainable, it's interesting. But I think if we want to understand that, we can look at how Savile Row's responding. They've always been good at, adapting and evolving.
Right. So how are they staying relevant in today's world?
Well, for one thing, they're really focusing on what they do best, like bespoke tailoring, impeccable craftsmanship.
Makes sense. In a world of fast fashion, a Savile Row suit, it represents something different.
Exactly. It's an investment, a statement.
Like, it's the difference between a mass-produced print and a one-of-a-kind painting.
Yeah. The suit becomes this personal statement, a piece of art almost.
And they're also getting on board with sustainability.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of Savile Row tailors are sourcing their fabrics from ethical and sustainable producers.
So it's not just about looking good. It's about, feeling good about what you're wearing.
Exactly. And beyond all that, there's this intangible element, the legacy, the history, the stories woven into every Savile Row suit.
It's like you're wearing a piece of history.
Yeah. You're wearing a tradition, a craft.
And I think that's what gives the suit its lasting appeal.
Yeah.
It's not just a garment, it's a symbol.
Of aspiration, of refinement, of, a certain timeless elegance.
So even if the suit changes, adapts to new trends, that core essence remains.
Absolutely. The suit might change, but it still has that power, that ability to make us feel, well, confident, powerful.
Ready to take on the world.
Exactly. And that's something that will never go out of style.
Well said. I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the history of the suit.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
Definitely. We've covered a lot, from the suit's origins to its global impact.
Hopefully it's given you a new appreciation for this iconic garment.
Absolutely. The next time you see someone in a suit, you'll see it in a whole new light.
And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to add a touch of that timeless style to your own wardrobe.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the history of the suit. We hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to check out our next deep dive.